Hey everyone, it's Mauricio Rauld here, Ken McElroy's legal advisor, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about the PPM and why it's so critical when putting together a syndication. For those of you who don't know, PPM stands for Private Placement Memorandum, and it's a document where all of your disclosures go into. Disclosure is the name of the game when you're in the business of raising capital. The goal is to make sure you're providing all of the information to your investors so that they can digest that information and make an intelligent decision as to whether this is an investment for them or not. And the primary way we get that information across to investors is through this document called a PPM. The best analogy I can give, and I've always thought, is the medical consent form. You guys that have had surgery out there know that prior to surgery, you get this little sheet called a medical consent form. I happen to have terrible teeth, and I end up going to get oral surgery all the time. And every single time I go to the dentist or the oral surgeon, I get that yellow form called a medical consent form, and they tell me all the ways that my wisdom teeth getting pulled can go wrong. I could get an infection, I could die from getting my wisdom teeth out, but it's just every single way my procedure could go wrong. I sign that document, the doctor signs the document, and then we go ahead with the procedure. That exactly is what a PPM is. It's a way that you describe to your investors all the ways you think they could lose their money, all the relevant information about you and your team, and maybe if you've got some skeletons in your closet, you've got to disclose those. So it's not exactly a fun document, but it's a necessary document and a requirement in most cases from the SEC, especially when you have non-accredited investors in your deal. You are required to provide them this document that explains all the ways they essentially can lose their money. Now, the PPM is not just a standalone document. The PPM will also have several other components to it, and most of the time it's through exhibits. So the PPM, I also call it sort of the offering documents, but the PPM is sort of the first main one, and then all these other documents are documents that you must be giving those to your investors if you're doing a syndication or if you're a passive investor. These are the types of documents you should be looking for, because if you don't see these documents, that's going to be a red flag. The syndicator isn't doing the things by the book. So we've already talked a little bit about the main PPM. The second thing you're going to see is an operating agreement. Now, an operating agreement, remember, when you're doing a syndication, the investors are going to be members of that LLC. They're going to be the equivalent of shareholders. They're going to own a piece of that LLC with you, and the operating agreement is the sort of the operating manual that describes how this business is going to be conducted. Who's going to run the day-to-day activities? What are the voting rights? What are the fees? Essentially, if anything were to go wrong, that's why this is sometimes called an operating disagreement, because when there's a disagreement, this is a document you're going to go to find out what the procedures need to be followed. A lot of people will call me and say, Mauricio, this just happened. What do I do, or what do I need to do in order to get rid of this person or that person? We're going to look at the operating agreement to see what exactly that document says, because that is the document that's going to govern everything about this investment. Want to make sure that the PPM and the operating agreement match, right? I see often when I'm reviewing other people's PPM is sometimes the PPM says one thing and the operating agreement says something else. The operating agreement is the document that's going to hold all of the weight in gold, and so you want to make sure that if you're a passive investor that you're reading that document, and if you're the syndicator, you want to make sure that's put together properly, so you outline the splits, the returns, the fees, cash calls, anything you can think of the deal that's going to be in the operating agreement. The third document you're going to see is a subscription agreement, which is really the actual legal document that actually binds the investor to the deal. So the subscription agreement is going to be the document where you say, hey, I like this deal. I want to invest X amount of dollars into the deal in exchange for X amount of shares or X amount of membership units. And that's really the legal document that binds the investor to the deal. It's also the document that establishes when the investor actually got into the deal, which sometimes is very important. So I always like to have this document countersigned by the sponsor, so that when both of those signatures happen, that's when we know that the investor has officially joined the investment. There's also going to be an investor questionnaire. An investor questionnaire is necessary because we need, as syndicators, we need to keep track, number one, of who our investors are. Are they accredited? Are they not accredited? And all of, obviously, the basic information that we need for us to provide them with tax returns. But the main reason to have the investor questionnaire is to make sure we understand how many accredited investors are in our deal and how many non-accrediteds are in our deals, because if we're relying on that popular exemption, which is the Rule 506B, we're limited to 35 non-accredited investors as long as they're sophisticated. So we better have a mechanism to confirm and know exactly how many of these non-accredited investors are in our deal, and we do that via the investor questionnaire. And then finally, which I would actually probably should have said maybe at the beginning, is your business plan. Now, the business plan is essentially your marketing tool. This is not really a legal document, so this is something that you as a syndicator put together, and people make it nice and glossy, but it's basically all the information about the property, your business plan, information about you, the sponsor. There's going to be information about the marketplace. There's probably going to be a pro forma, a use of funds. All of this information is really, at the end of the day, what's going to get investors excited about your deal and wanting to get on the phone call with you or attend a webinar. So the business plan is key. I would say the business plan, you've almost got to oversell them here so that when they read the PPM and you tell them all the way they can lose their money, you've already oversold them on that, because nobody, I can assure you, nobody is going to invest in your deal purely based on this PPM document, which, as we described earlier, is a little bit of it's a little disheartening because it's showing you all the ways you could lose your money. So make sure you do a nice job on the business plan. A lot of people take the property package that they get from the broker and incorporate that. That's really the marketing tool, and the attorney does need to review that. We want to make sure the proper disclaimers are in there, and we want to make sure that we're not going overboard and promising the sky and not really giving a complete picture, because again, what you want really and what the investor wants is just make sure you're giving all the information, all the important and necessary information to your investors so that they can make an intelligent decision as to whether to invest in your deal or not. Hopefully that was helpful, and if you've got any questions, feel free to drop something in the comment. I'm happy to answer them. If not, we'll see you at the next video.